What's good, fam?
What's up, dog? How you doing?
Chilling. How you feeling, bro?
I'm good. I'm good, man. Had a free weekend. Open family
Oh,
down.
man.
Went out of town for to go visit my wife's family. So I was just like, let me see if I can get somebody on stream this tonight, and we can chop it up and talk about whatever. So
Yeah,
I seen you were
I'll say that.
showing off some comics on your stream.
Yeah, getting them ready, getting them jazzed up. You know how we do.
Hell yeah. But let's talk about a real dope comic you made, Project
Oh,
Unicorn.
shit. Oh, shit. Thank you, bro.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. First off, real quick, Kova. Man, so are you off work too?
Yeah, so I'm off on the weekend, so I'm good. Good this
Wow.
weekend.
Okay, so
Chilling.
you're off on the weekends and your family's gone.
Mhm.
When was the last time you had like alone time
Um, yeah,
like this kind of
probably
situation?
sometime during the summer. My wife usually takes the kids down there to go on my father-in-law's like boat and go hang out and stuff. So that's probably the
Okay,
last time I had time to myself. And usually when I have this weekend to myself, I usually like fix up the house and then like take care of just whatever. And then I try to be as productive as possible creatively. So like before
Mhm.
like if today what I did was I knocked out like 2 pages of AWOL number 4, cleaned up downstairs, just little shit right like that. Took a
Yeah.
nap.
Yep. Oh my
Took a nice
gosh,
little
that was
nap.
probably the best nap ever, bro.
Yeah, just a good little nap. But yeah,
Totally. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious, man, because I'm like, this guy, because Kova, man, I be feeling lazy. Like I didn't do anything next to this dude. So I'm honored to be here, Kova.
hell yeah. Let's get into it. So, what was like the inspiration for Project Unicorn?
So it was interesting because I got back from Japan and I was like, well, I'm gonna do a manga. I was like, that's what I'm doing, you know? And so I had all the supplies, and this was after I went to Japan to honor my friend Ed Piscor. So did that, got a bunch of supplies for the homies, got supplies for you.
Yep.
Um, and then I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna make a manga in a very traditional form because I had the supplies. I just came from that. I felt because I was there for 6 weeks and it felt like I was there doing a like residency because this time I just went there and lived. I mean, I bought a lot of stuff, but it wasn't like the manga quest peak that me and Eddie would do. This was more me reflecting, going into like my discipline of living in Japan versus being a tourist. And so when I came back, I carried that energy through the book. And so the
Yeah.
page that we're on, that first page that you were just on, Kova,
hmm
that one was the concept page for the entire book. So there's the 3 parts. The first story is the lover. The story that I'm working on now is the cult. And then the third story is going to be the prophecy. So it's a 3-parter.
Dope, man. I remember when you were working on this, and I just love how you utilize YouTube and the streaming like platform in order to show your work and actually like show you present, making the comics and the pages and things like that. I think that's
Right.
something new that a lot of comic book artists don't do that. A lot of comic artists, they don't live stream a lot of the times and utilize some of these social media platforms in a good way, where I feel like you've cultivated a strong following of people who really appreciate and like the work, and as well as like to interact with you while you work. Because again, you're one of the people who I've been able to see actually do work and then interact with people as well and be like entertaining, answer questions and stuff like that. So I think only the person I've seen be able to do that maybe is like David Finch, but he's also when he would live stream, he would live stream like with his wife, so she would be able to filter out the questions with them.
Oh
But yeah,
yeah.
man, so it's just super dope, and that is interesting that you went down to Japan, you kind of soaked in the energy and the life that was out there. Kind of got away from being in Ohio, which I know you love
Mhm.
Ohio, but going to Japan was a whole
Yeah,
nother
that's a
another.
whole different world.
Yeah, for sure. So that's I love this comic. When I read it, I thought it was super dope. I loved everything about it.
Oh man,
And I know
thank
you did
you.
the Kickstarter for it, and we talked about this before on your channel. But I mean, if you want to run down just quickly, just how that Kickstarter was for you and how that process was leading up to deciding, okay, I'm gonna do a Kickstarter, and then how that went after that.
Yeah, totally. So everyone was hounding me to do a Kickstarter, and I was like, cool, you know, like I wasn't really tripping off of it because I can typically just sell a comic. Like
Yeah.
that's not hard because it's built into my whole branding. Um, and so people kept encouraging me to do it, and I'm really grateful for doing it because I was able to get it funded. It took I think it took about a week to get it fully funded, you know, to which was $2,000, I think, and then it got to 2,500. Now that equivalent is to 75 comics. That's how many people supported it. So it kind of shows you the value in doing a Kickstarter because that is a quantifiable number that you can get excited about versus selling 10 books here, 5 books here, you know, so on and so on. That's you're just trickling in the money. So that doesn't really give you that same, you know, you're like, oh, I can buy my kid something. I can buy myself this, you know, whatever I wanted for that time, you know, like this video game. But you're never going to get the equivalent to how it feels like to get a check. And that's what we're familiar with as Americans with going to jobs, stuff like that. So to actually experience the Kickstarter was really impressive and really, well, not impressed. Yeah, I was impressed by the system and I enjoyed it. So yeah, so it went really well. Didn't have to do much promo because I was already dropping the book, and like you were talking about, my promo was built into it by making the pages on the live stream. So it was all those were the key components that made it successful. And so it gave me I don't lack confidence in that area, but it gave me a lot of reassurance. That would be the word, Kova, reassurance.
Yeah, for sure. I felt the same way. Like it definitely reassured me that I was moving in the right direction when I did my Kickstarter for AWOL. I feel like you know, a year ago I probably wouldn't have been able to get that money or be able to get people to want to dedicate their money or support my Kickstarter. Whereas this year I felt confident enough to do it. And I'm the same as you. I don't really have any like lack of confidence when it comes to like putting myself out there. But just because you're not confident doesn't mean people are, you know, necessarily going to support or even care. Because there's a lot of people
Right.
on the internet who are like, you know, cocky or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, nobody cares. Like, okay, that guy's just an asshole, whatever, and then just move forward. Whereas, like, what you did, what I think, like, again, going back to the live streaming thing, was just you showed people who you were in real time, in raw time. That's like the thing about live streams where people you can't edit. There's no editing. You're just, you know, unless you like delete the live stream after, but even that's risky because if like, you know, the popular people who do live streams, they can get their shit clipped and then reposted and then it gets put in like context where, you know, you build a strong base of people who really like fuck with you and stuff like that. And let's talk about like power to the panel and the origins of that and where it's evolved and within this last year. You know, I've been an early adopter, subscriber, and follower of Power to the Panel, of you, and now it's growing into where it started off as a podcast, YouTube channel, and then went to live streaming, and now you're moving into more edited content with and involving the people within the group that you that support you, and now you're kind of giving it back in return by allowing them to put their faces and their selves on the channel. So how has that process been for you and journey for you?
Yeah, it's been really exciting. I actually, you inspired me a lot with that, with your channel, because you know, as part of Cartoon Kayfabe, I was a guest on there for a few episodes, and so but I was there from the beginning with Eddie and Jimmy. So like Eddie, I knew the channel was going up. I think they actually had the channel up, just not launched like a month before. So like I was already like saw the video like a month prior or whatever before it dropped. And so being there from the beginning and to see the growth of that channel through COVID and then to see how they scaled that and then to be there on the to experience it on their side of the table, I learned a lot. And then but what was still kind of abstracted for me was the professionalism, and you were, and that's where I learned from you, because the way you manage your the way you engage with your channel is a really effective way. So like the way you engage with the comments, or the way you engage with the way you make the video, or how what you're making the video about. Like I got to see it in real time. And so I was like, oh, okay, that kind of, because a lot of people might be confused by the idea of like, well, what could Kova, what can I learn from Kova? In the sense of like, we've hung out a few times, but
Mhm.
we don't have that we don't have years together. You know what I mean? And so, but a lot of people don't understand, and this is where people my age have to learn. And this is something I always knew because I don't really roll with old people. So,
Mhm.
is that you don't the youth doesn't have the same baggage or the same ego that people from my generation do. So
Yeah.
somebody like a Kova doesn't have a concern about being wrong or being right. You're presenting your perspective and you respect yourself. And so in that return happens. And so to see that and to see you impact a moment and to see it get like 100,000 views, and it's not a big deal to you. Whereas like something like that could be a big deal to somebody my age, because that's a lot of attention that we come from a background of never seeing things like that, right?
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from you, and so that's kind of how I handle my YouTube channel, is just by evolving it and not really committing or chasing anything specifically.
Mhm.
Like I don't care about monetization or any of that stuff or views. I'm talking directly to a few people, and if you're there and then you get it. If not, then maybe next time. So yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a very flexible system, and by introducing other people and having other people on there, it's because like it's to show that like I don't have, because I have a big personality, which a lot of times people associate that with ego, but it's
Mhm.
the opposite. It's like, no, I believe in the community so much that they can have it. You know what I mean? So Kova,
Yeah.
if you want to host on my channel, it's like plug you in and go. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's that kind of feeling.
Yeah, for sure. Even getting back to like the community thing, like that is something that really like I liked about you and your channel, and just how you are just egoless, and you are just like, all right, you guys want to hang out, you guys want to do this, let's do it. Oh, you guys want to go longer on live stream, or fuck it, I'll cut whatever I had going on in the future, and we can go a
Mm-hmm.
lot longer on the streams. Like I remember when in the early days, which is crazy to think about now, you were going live for like 6-7 hours sometimes, and I was like, bro, this like I would literally get off work. You'd be on live stream like while I was in the middle of work, get off work, go to the gym, leave the gym, and you're still on live stream. I was like, damn, this dude is going crazy, man. And I think that really helped a lot of people, just because being an artist and drawing, especially like in comics, is such a singular thing, and being able
Right.
to have someone you can kind of interact with and talk to. I mean, I've did it myself, just watching your live streams while I was drawing, and I think it helps motivate a lot of people. Even people in the chat are saying like how much they appreciated the channel, and I think that is a real thing that really helps cultivate uh people to really rock with what you got going on. And even in real life, you really are a part of your community in Ohio. I remember, I don't know if you dropped a video or somebody dropped a video of you at an elementary school. There was like a summer camp or something, and you were there with other people, and you were teaching the kids at the school, an art program, and headlining that. And I remember watching, and I was like, man, that really plays on my heartstrings. That's to me, that's like an important thing, art,
Mhm.
and showing kids, maybe I don't know if there was they were like low income kids or whatever, but it just shows a different way of life other than what they had going on. Being able to hone in on the imagination of a child, which is really really important, because the older
Mhm.
you get, the less you are able to engage in your imagination, and in that youthfulness. And so, how was that experience? How did you get involved with starting to engage with your community in that way? And
Mhm.
then, how has that helped you, or even like brought back to you, and how has that been for you?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. So I was essentially born an educator. I
Mhm.
started teaching at 14. And so what happened, it's kind of funny how it happened. So I don't know how to get a job, like, meaning, like, I'm not a professional type of guy. Like, you kind of figured,
Yeah.
spotted that. I'm actually extreme. I'm actually too professional in some aspects. So anyway, let's get to the point.
Mhm.
I was my mom worked at a daycare at the church, and it was through a YMCA, and I was at a Methodist church as a kid, and then what happened? So then I was too old to go to the daycare because I didn't have to. I was 12, so latchkey type kid type thing. And then they turned around and asked me if I wanted a job at 14 because what I was doing at 12, I was teaching the kids art. So I was like the art teacher because I do art. I mean, I do it all the time. That actually got me a job after that I got another job offering down the street at a place called the Southside Settlement. The Southside Settlement was part of United Way. So this is crazy actually, Kova, now that I'm like talking about this out loud. Then I got hired at 19 at a college to teach. Right. I can't even believe, because I don't think much about it. You know what I mean, Kova? To me, it's like, but now that I'm reflecting on it, I'm like, oh, that's kind of crazy. Yeah. So I was teaching at a university at the age of 19. It was for an ASL program. I was teaching because the Somali diaspora is the second largest here in Columbus. They went from New York to Columbus down to St. Louis. So we have the second largest Somali population because they didn't have a standing government. So America took them in because of I think it was like the Taliban back in the 80s, took over Somalia. So anyway, so I was teaching English and literacy at a private university when I was 19. And then after that, I got hired by the Columbus Museum of Art, where I was there for like 15 years. And then so that's where I learned everything about art education and that stuff. So that's where I became an expert in that field. And then when I left there, I became a full-time artist. And so I published, and Columbus City Schools reached out to me, and they asked me if I could work at their summer program. And I said, cool, yeah, I can do that. Great contract. They originally invited me there as an artist, and I did so well that they, as a guest, that's when they asked me to work for them one summer. Did that, and then they asked me to run the program the following year. So what you're seeing, Kova, that was my program that I designed, and I hired all those people, and I was in charge of that school.
That's awesome.
And I wrote curriculum for K through 8th grade for 3 years. So I wrote the art curriculum for the summer school program for Columbus City Schools. And then I did all the hiring and then all the training. So that was literally just off of, and I don't have a degree. I don't have any.
Yeah.
It's literally based off of my character and obviously my intelligence, or it's my focus on art. You know what I mean? That's really what it is my focus on art. So that put me in a position of being able to really impact people. And that's my main goal in life, is to impact people with art. And then K-Fam was after that. So that was that. So yeah, and I still do education. So I'm going February. I'm booked for the entire month, obviously, right? we don't.
Yeah, we talked about that before.
It's cool though, right? But so February, I'm completely booked for all education stuff. So it's cool. It's cool. I dig it.
Yeah, that's dope. I mean, educators and stuff to hold like a special place in my heart, because my mom was a teacher growing up. So like just seeing that and even just remembering her frustration with the educational system and stuff like that is just something I think about a lot of the times. But even after she was done teaching, she did a lot of volunteer stuff and like worked at certain programs and stuff. That I remember one time she was working for this program that helped like refugees and there was these kids from, I don't remember if they're from like South Africa or somewhere in the West Africa. They came over, and one of the kids wanted a guitar, and I had like a little guitar, and I gave it to him because I was like, well, I don't use it. And
Wow.
I think about that. I'm like, man, I wonder. Hopefully, I hope that made him feel like good. And I was like probably like in elementary school when I did that, and I was just like, I don't use it.
Life.
So, and it's just like, even just like, again, I remember when I was watching that video, and I was like, damn, like that's dope. Like seeing those kids just excited to draw. Because even when I see my kids, like I give them art supplies, and they just go ham. And my daughter more than my son. My son isn't very much. He likes to do it more extroverted, like crazy stuff. My daughter is super artsy and stuff. But just seeing them, so I can imagine just like kids who may not even have that opportunity. I remember, I went to the Boys and Girls Club growing up, and being able to do stuff like that. I can only imagine how much people appreciate it, because I remember how much I appreciated those things. Not even just art, but just like being engaging with people who actually cared about what we got going on,
Yeah, that means a lot. Thank you, Gova. And I appreciate that story that you said about your mom, because you can see like the era of education your mom and I were both in, because you saw that parallel where it's like the diaspora from Africa was happening. And so they needed a lot of teachers that represented that, you know what I'm saying? So that's a very nurturing trust position. So, and mind you, like, I'll be transparent. My contract for Ohio Dominican, I think I was making 30, it was either like $27 or $33 an hour. Wow. So they were paying, that was like making more than like the professors, because this thing was such a important thing. And you remember that time, like this would have been, I don't even know how old you would have been, or when your mom experienced her diaspora educational like support system. Mine was in the early 2000s, so it was like 2000, 2001, around there.
I think by then she was already working like at actual like schools. I think it might have been later that she quit. When did she quit being a teacher? I think she might have quit in like 2009, 2010. Went back to school to become a counselor. And I think during that time, it must have been like middle school time, like so probably 2000, like the early 2010s, maybe it might have been there during that time when she was doing those jobs.
Different diasporas happen at different times.
Yeah. It was like a refugee thing. I don't think it was just African people. It was other people who were just refugees from the time. I don't really remember exactly, but I just remember that distinct story of just like giving the kid the guitar and just like feeling like good about it, because like I was like,
man, what if you hear like a song that becomes popular, not even like really popular, we don't have to Hollywood it, just like you come across it, and then you like, oh, I like this dude, and you read an article and it's like, I was in freaking Carolina and this lady gave me a guitar. Yeah, and that's where it started. That would be crazy. You'll be like, dude,
wait a minute.
I guarantee the reason I'm saying this story is because I want it to happen,
Yeah, that would be nuts. That would be nuts. But even holding in on like the bigger scope of you like being involved with your like art community and stuff, like I've seen it because you kind of preach that to the core and to the group on your channel, and I've seen it in real time with like Devin, right, who's got involved in this community in Kalamazoo in Michigan, and he's benefited from that. And even looking at that, how has that benefited you? Because I know you've talked about like grants and doing things, and being able to benefit monetarily from being involved with your community. About is either doing like murals, the community classes, and stuff like that. So how did you start figuring and that aspect out of like, okay, maybe I can make a livable lifestyle out of just giving art to the community?
Yeah, so a lot of times artists do this weird approach, and that's why they're not successful with this taking. It's the aspect of taking. And as a man, that's pretty pathetic. And so because it's almost like hustler culture, you know what I mean? And that's not art. It's not art. Operates in a space of like where there has to be a level of like connection, expression, and honesty or vulnerability, right? So when you draw, you're putting yourself out there. Yeah. And by putting yourself out there, you're putting yourself out there to scrutiny. That's how we feel. But really what you're doing is you're putting yourself out there to impact people and giving them something positive, to something aspirational, something that's transformative. And so when you're in a position of somebody who takes from the art, you're thinking of it and you have the wrong intention. So you're coming from a space of weakness and like insecurity, versus if you just let the art come out and it connects to somebody, you can't deny that expression. So like you connected to my pieces, I connect to your pieces. It like your piece is right over there. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like they can't change that. No one can take that away. But if I was to seduce you with art and make it something beautiful and sexy in order to manipulate your feelings, that's not the right intention. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to target you because you're rich. I'm not even going to target you. I'm going to do my thing and I'm going to share it. And then if you connect to it, then cool, you dig it. If you don't, then you won't even see it. It would be a mirage, right? So,
Yeah.
or a phantom in that case. So it's kind of like that, but to make it in a, but to explain it in a less like um, abstract form, you can. There's two aspects of art. By giving the art, you're changing, you're inviting people.
Mm-hmm.
Versus if you're approaching it as like hustling, like you're looking for the money, you're looking how to make get the hook, get that money, then it's very limiting because
Yeah.
the money is a byproduct of the work. So I don't even have to draw to make money. People will support me just for showing up as an artist.
Yeah.
And that's profound because I'm like, and that's the level I'm trying to get people to. So
I see
like,
that.
so Devin has that it,
Mm-hmm.
Eddie had the it.
Yeah.
Like you have it, right? There's very specific, and it's not, and it's ebb and flows. It changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not exempt from scrutiny, right? It's all in development. It's people who are putting themselves out there, and they're doing the best they can with, and not worrying about how it looks. So that's really what it comes down to. And that's easy to separate those people, And I don't even
Yeah.
knock the people who are doing it for the money, in that sense. But I do question like the character if they're working with me. Because it's like, hey, that's not my DNA. That's not my makeup. We don't even align in the same value. And that's the difference. And I think that's where we have a connection where you're like, oh, I really resonate with the education stuff,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm definitely just for just giving stuff like as far as art goes because I just feel like why not? Because I mean, even because I make comics and comics is a medium that is meant to be enjoyed and shown to other people. It's not meant to be like beholden, held together, held to your heart. You make it for the purpose of commercializing it essentially, right? And even when I was just doing my Kickstarter, I was essentially just on some like I'm just gonna try to give as much to everybody as possible because why not?
Oh,
I don't
I
care.
learned
Like,
so much, man. Kova, can you talk about that actually? I know that you're interviewing me, but
yeah,
I learned a lot from you on that. I was like an add-on. I said, bro, just what? And
yeah.
like
Even outside of like the add-on, just
Resident
like
Evil 5?
giving the like second issue to as a bonus. If I made to as the stretch goal and stuff because I just was like, well, I worked hard. I want to give people, and these people are like the early adopters, people who are like the day one supporters, family, friends, a lot of people who are in the chat that supported and, you and stuff. So I was just like, I got it done. Might as well just give it to everybody because I want as many people to check it out, and I don't hold it as a precious thing because I know I'm going to keep making more and more things. And I don't think that I'm not in it to make a ton of money. I'm here to express the stories, give out the stories that I want to give out, express the way I want to express myself. And then whoever is interested in checking that out, I want to be able to give it to you in the most easiest, accessible way as possible. And I don't want to like overcharge people. I don't want to try to like hit people over the head with, crazy prices or crazy, whatever the case is, going back to your point about like people who want to take and take, I want to give, I want to be able to just give this stuff out because I don't want ever like I'm not relying on art as my main goal. I mean, my main source of income. So that's probably like a thing that I don't really have to think about. And two is just like I'm making it for you guys. Like I brought it out in the world for myself, and now I want to give it to you guys to enjoy and even give me a critique back and things like that. Even with this is something I want to ask you about because you've functioned between two different worlds where like you've been in the fine art world and making paintings and all this stuff, and then the comic book world, where it's like comic books is a commercial art, right? Comic books is a art form that is meant to be sold or given out, whereas fine art is you can make a painting for somebody and nobody else would even see it, or you can, you know what I'm saying, like you can, it's a buyer seller type game, at least in my understanding. So how was that being able to function between those two mediums, those two industries for you?
Yeah, it's actually really hard because it's there's a reason why people only do one thing and they don't even veer from one style. They'll do the one thing. And so if you notice, I have a really bad short-term memory. And so a lot of people associate that with me being aloof. It's not. It's because, Kova, think about with you, when you're, the minute you stop having responsibilities, and that could be like every other second. Like, let's say your kid asks you a question, you answer the kid's question. The minute you can escape that mental of that mode, you probably start thinking about your comics, your story, your art. You automatically go there. So take that and apply that to two different fields, opposite. They're on the opposite ends, but they're both the most difficult fields to do. You know what I mean? Comics being the more difficult field. Anyone who can draw a comic can be a painter really easily, but to be, it's almost, and the best way I can explain it, Kova, is I talk about it on my channel a lot, is the misconception of a painter when they make a comic, because they make a painted comic opposed to making the aesthetic of a comic through the process of painting, which sounds completely pretentious, right? But the point of that is that it's about understanding the field you're working in.
Yeah.
So I can accomplish a comic through using painting supplies, and I can also accomplish a painting through using comic book supplies, because it's a skill set that applies through different systems and different languages. The material doesn't matter. And that's what people get caught up on, is the material part of it. So I sold a painting recently for a decent amount. So that's why I've been able to, like, take a relax,